You're listening to Crow's Cast, a podcast by USF St. Petersburg's student newspaper, The Crow's Nest. This week, we'll be discussing pop culture.
Hello and welcome to Crow's Cast. My name is Sophie Ojdanic and I'm the editor-in-chief of The Crow's Nest. I'm here with Catherine and Edyn.
Hi. Hello. We'd also like to start this episode by offering our condolences to the family and friends of Chadwick Boseman, whose impacts on the film community will never be forgotten.
Speaking of films, what were you guys watching this summer?
Okay, so since movie theaters were closed, I spent a lot of time on Netflix. I never got into, Umbrella Academy or any of that.
Yeah. I've heard good things, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah, I've only heard good things, but, I watched a few episodes and I just got out of it. And then another favorite was The Old Guard. I was, obsessed with The Old Guard the entire summer.
I watched it. I really like Charlize Theron in general, so,
yeah.
But I wasn't obsessed with it.
I'll watch everything with Charlize Theron in it. So.
I remember when she was in the Dior commercial. I know that's, a really weird thing to remember, but I loved her in the Dior commercial in Versailles when she's, walking down the Hall of Mirrors. I was like, what an icon.
I feel like I could see, reenacting that in your home. Just dressing up and,
with
this
a,
is me.
With a long, flowy bathrobe.
Yes.
Well, I have been watching 90 Day Fiancé, and I am incredibly invested in every single couple. I really like Paul and what's his wife's name?
Carini?
Yes.
Paul's stressed. I get anxiety from Paul.
He was arrested for arson.
Yeah.
He has a restraining order. He's the most terrifying person I've ever watched on television. It was really clear they didn't do background checks.
Oh my gosh. And then the terrorism thing when he was like, I got a small terrorism charge.
Yeah, and his mother is very well aware of the fact that he is just hopeless. I think she called him, and the last episode I watched, she was like, aren't you kind of a burnout? Why would Carini want you? And I was like, well, she made him, but that was really just on the nose.
Yeah. I think my favorite couple, I've had trouble getting into more recent ones because a lot of them just seem like hot messes or Russian.
No, absolutely.
Paid,
that is 100%. What's going
paid
on.
Russian dating sites, but one of my favorites was always Andre and what's her name?
Libby. Andre and Libby. Andre is terrifying.
You don't like Andre? I think Andre.
Are you up to date? When the whole family's in Moldova?
Oh no, I haven't seen when he's in Moldova.
So when they go to Moldova, spoiler alert, Andre goes off and tells them to go back to America. And refuses to talk about his past or why he went to Ireland. And, just tells them to leave and that he doesn't want them there. And then Libby tries to call off the wedding. So, you might not like Andre in the future.
Well, they did get married.
Well, the second wedding. They're having a second wedding
the
in
Moldovan
Moldova.
wedding.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, I guess... Other than that, I watched the entirety of Love Island UK season 5.
See, I'm into shows that you don't have to pay a lot of attention to, but are just there. Because I only watch TV when I'm, really stressed out. And so having, the background noise, reality TV is key.
Yeah, Love Island season 5 is real good. But then if you try to watch US, it sucks. And if you try to watch season 6, it's not as good.
Yeah.
I watched Outer Banks. It's a mystery show. So it's about an orphaned 17-year-old boy who's named John B., who is not bad on the eyes, by the way.
That's what I heard.
His dad disappeared on a treasure hunt that's an urban legend where they live. And so the main character, John B., and all of his friends go on a, hunt to find his father. And it's got, romance and betrayal and mystery and all that. It's pretty cool.
I'm on TikTok, which is kind of embarrassing, but I love TikTok, a lot. And I see a lot of girls trying to imitate that show, and I've never understood it, so now I understand it a tiny bit more.
Good. It's totally worth it. And then I also watched Looking for Alaska, the show that was based off the book by John Green.
Oh, they made a show. I thought it was like a movie.
Yeah, it's like a 10-part show. Like
Isn't that
first
on Hulu?
season.
I think I saw that last night. I was looking for something to watch, and I saw that.
It was absolutely amazing. It was like really true to the books, and like the books. It basically is about like a group of like teenagers at like a high school summer camp. And it just, like, it talks about, like, you know, mental illness and bullying and underage drinking and drug use and, like, really heavy subjects, but it does it in, like, a really, like, comical way.
Was it done well? Like, was it, I feel like some shows, like 13 Reasons Why, got a lot of backlash.
I can go on about how awful
it's an atrocious, horrible
is.
show. Is it?
No, it was done really, really well. Like,
Okay.
it was believable. I felt like it wasn't...
But, like, not triggering.
Yeah, no, and it wasn't like it romanticized it like the
Okay.
way that 13 Reasons Why did.
I'll go too far into 13 Reasons Why.
I watched a really good, like, docu-series. It's like 3-part, like, it's 3 episodes, but they're each like an hour last night. And it was called Taken at Birth. It was on Hulu. And it was about this doctor in the 60s called Dr. Hicks. And he would sell... Well, yeah, I wouldn't be so happy that my last name was Hicks. From this documentary, he would sell babies for like $1,000 out the back door and like say that, like tell the mom that her baby died or he was performing illegal abortions, but instead of doing the abortion, he would induce labor. And so we think these babies would be born at like 4 pounds, 3 pounds. And then there was a list and you got a call and you show up at the back door and they give you the baby, and then like on the birth certificate was the adopted parent's name. So they had no ties to their actual mother, and all the mothers either thought that they had an abortion or that their baby was a stillborn. And so all these people, there was like over 200 Hicks babies, and they're like in their 50s and 60s now, and they're trying to find their biological families and stuff.
That's not me.
Yeah, it's definitely not Catherine. I watched it's 4 countries. It's called Criminal. It's on Netflix. It's Criminal United Kingdom, Criminal Spain, Criminal France, and Criminal Germany. And they're cop shows, which are going out of fashion. But they are like entirely set in an interrogation room, and it follows cops from all 4 of those countries interrogating suspects of different crimes. And it was insanely good. I watched them in their original languages, which I think is a little more true to the source material, but still, they were so interesting, even though they had like 2 settings, and it was like interrogation room and then behind the glass in the interrogation room. It was so well done, and I'm really hoping that they continue on with doing that, and I would recommend it for sure if you're into crime sort of thing.
What about music? What have you guys been listening to?
I am so bland with music. I found this guy on Sons of Anarchy when I was rewatching that show called The White Buffalo, and he does like blues rock, like deep country, which is really like, I know a lot of people aren't going to be into that, but if you listen, like the guy's got so much soul in his voice that I just love listening to his songs. And I'm a real sad music person, even though I live my life laughing, you know how it is. I love listening to sad music, so I can't explain it. But that's pretty much all I listen to is like The White Buffalo and things of that genre.
I recently got into folk music. There's like a Newport folk, like, yeah, there's like the Newport Folk Festival, and so they have a playlist on Spotify, so I just listen to that and then like pick songs that I like and add them to my regular playlist. So they have some good stuff. I would highly recommend that. And then I listen to a lot of the Grateful Dead, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. I've been listening to this podcast called Noble Blood, and it's a really good podcast host, and he tells stories really, really well. And he tells stories about different kings and monarchies and old history stuff, but kind of like the nitty-gritty of it, like the social interactions, and that's like super interesting. And then Crime Junkies, like true crime podcast. I love listening to true crime podcasts, and Crime Junkies is one of my like ultimate favorites.
I'm ashamed to say that, like, basically I listen to an ungodly amount of TikTok songs. Like, that's where a lot of my music comes from.
I can definitely relate to that. Although I don't know the whole songs. I only know, like, those small clips from TikTok.
It just depends on, like the one song. So this one is my new favorite, Overwhelmed by Royal and the Serpent. I feel like I'm super picky about my music because it has to have, like, a good, like, beat and rhythm and all that stuff, but also lyrics I relate to. So, like, that song Overwhelmed, and then You Broke Me First by Tate McRae, and then anything by, like, Bay Miller. I've really liked her.
I watched, she was on the X Factor, wasn't she?
Oh, I think she was like a radio Disney star.
And, well, I don't think so. She was originally on the X Factor when, like, Demi Lovato was a judge. Like, this is, like, maybe 2012.
Oh,
and
no,
I didn't think she won.
Tracks. And she didn't win, but she was pretty good on the show. And then when she came off, she put out, like, an album, and it didn't really get very much traction. But then she put out another song or album, and I don't think a lot of people know who she is, but a lot of people know her music.
Exactly.
But maybe not know who sang
like
it.
Alanis Morissette.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, any Alanis Morissette fans.
What did you guys read over the summer? Anything?
I read school articles. I read a lot of articles and textbooks and more articles and textbooks.
Yeah, some public records, read some news stories. I can recommend some reading, though. I read Cyrano de Bergerac, which is a French play. I did not read it in French, just for the record. But it's so funny, yet so heartbreaking, and I definitely, if you didn't have to read it for any class, I definitely recommend reading Cyrano.
I finally finished reading the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, who did not write Twilight, by the way. I always get the
Stephanie.
two confused. I literally always get the two confused. And it's basically a retelling of all the classic fairy tales with, like, a feminist sci-fi steampunk twist.
Okay, I think I've heard of that. I didn't know the name of it, but I think
The first one's named, like, Cinder, so...
Yeah, okay, I think I have heard of that.
They're really good, but they're really old, and I finally finished them.
I read a book, not this summer, but a book right before the summer. It's called 23 Things They Don't Tell You About Capitalism, which is a really interesting book, and it's written well. It's easy to understand. It was actually an enjoyable read because they had stories within it and examples that related to the average person.
Midnight Sun came out. I don't know if anybody here was ever a Twilight fan.
I was a Twilight movie fan.
Yeah.
I read the books, and the books I thought were worse than the movies.
I felt the exact same way. So I was not excited about Midnight Sun, but it did bring, like, in my opinion, it brought Twilight fans back out with a force. And I've heard a really, like, split reaction. Some of them saying it's horrible and saying that, like, she rewrote the same book basically just to make money. And others are like, it's amazing and we want the entire series written from Edward's perspective.
Yeah.
So we're getting 2 more Twilight books apparently.
Great. I've heard, like, mixed reviews in the same vein that are like, oh, Meyer, never addressed any of the criticism that came out of Twilight. And then I read another review and it was like, oh, she addressed all of it and it's so much smoother from Edward's perspective.
I don't know. I don't like her writing style. Like we were saying. Like, I just don't like her writing style.
Well, because I read Twilight and I liked the movies, but I didn't like the book. But then I read Stephanie Meyer's The Host, and that's probably one of my favorite books ever. And I don't know, like, what happened there, but I think maybe she just had one good one.
I mean, like, sparkly vampires are just, in my opinion, not a good decision.
Not a good look.
In other news, the MTV Video Music Awards were Sunday night, and we saw winners in 25 different categories. And Sophie is going to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I highlighted the big 4. I determined, because, there's always at the Oscars, like, Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Supporting. What I picked up on was the Best Song winner was Rain on Me by Ariana Grande and Lady Gaga, and that won awards in 3 other categories as well. Lady Gaga also won the award for Best Artist, and she won 4 other awards if you count the awards for Rain on Me. Lady Gaga has been killing it lately.
I love Lady Gaga. I have always loved Lady Gaga, and I think I always will love Lady Gaga. She advocates for the right things. She's amazingly talented. I feel like that's all you can kind of ask for.
My favorite music is when she was doing like classic style. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard her album with like Tony Bennett.
Yes,
it's amazing.
It's really, really, really good.
I love that so much more than her pop stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I've been on a kick of just listening to the soundtrack of A Star Is Born, which is just her and Bradley Cooper, and
that
it's
just makes
so
me so
good.
sad, though. Like, actually, I watched the movie, and so now whenever I listen to the music, I just want to cry.
Oh, I don't listen to the, like, Always Remember You This Way or Always Remember Us This Way. I don't listen to that one.
Literally
I don't listen to anything
traumatizing.
else.
That was such a sad movie.
I, like, bit my hand to blood because I didn't want to cry because I went to see it with my dad.
I sobbed. I've never cried so hard in a movie. That was the saddest movie I've ever seen. Just straight up, like, so sad.
I don't know. I've seen some real sad movies.
Well, I choose not to watch.
Purpose got me.
Oh, I don't watch dog movies.
God, I was babysitting a kid, and I was like not gonna watch the movie, and the kid's like, we're gonna watch the movie, and like I was babysitting, so I didn't want to cry in front of like the kid I was babysitting because he wasn't crying, but like I definitely wanted to cry. It was not a good night for me.
BTS won Best Group at the MTV Video Music Awards. They also won 3 awards for their song On, but they were nominated for like almost every category. It was crazy. Then the last category that I'm going to highlight was Best Video, and Blinding Lights by The Weeknd won that, and it won another award as well. Honorable mention, Miley Cyrus's song Mother's Daughter won 2 awards in art direction and editing. So nothing for Miley specifically, but the people that worked on the video, I assume, for Mother's Daughter.
I saw Billy Ray Cyrus at a free concert like last semester, and it was the saddest thing I've ever seen.
Aww.
Because he was on stage and like no one knew any of his old songs. Like, everyone was there only to hear him sing Old Town Road. So, like, the whole entire time he was bringing up, like, Hannah Montana jokes, but, like, no one knew, like, no one cared, and people, like, just wanted the horse song. And so he sang it, literally the last song he sang was that song, but he sang it by himself, and so he did, like, an 8-minute rendition of it, and it was really, really sad. And he just kept taking his, like, flannel on and off the entire show.
He's probably really stressed out.
He thought he was trying to be cool, and like I think he really thought that people were really excited to see him, but I think people were just kind of there.
I'd be excited to see Billy Ray.
I would be so happy to hear Billy Ray Cyrus make like Hannah Montana jokes because like my childhood.
Yeah, except it was a little sad.
So moving on, Crow's Cast is going to try something new called a lightning round, where each host has to give the first answer that comes to their mind for a series of 3 pop culture questions. Each host will come up with a question on the spot, and we'll go around answering those questions. So I will start with my question, which is for our hosts to pitch Netflix's new hit series. And I'll start, just to give you guys some time to think about it before we get around to you. My pitch is the movie Project Power, but actually explained well.
That would be really good.
Yeah.
I feel like that movie, because they had like the pistol shrimp, and it's actually funny because I've had a pistol shrimp as a pet before, because I've had a saltwater fish tank. And it was completely incorrect biologically, like what the pistol shrimp does, because it just makes a really loud noise that scares away other animals. And in the movie,
that's what Jamie Foxx did.
Like, they made it look like he, like, could molecularly disintegrate things. Like, I don't know. But I think it would be cool because it was so cool that it was, like, the weakest animal concept, but also, like, they have such, when you apply it, like, on a large scale, they have strong evolutionary skills.
Yeah, and then like even they mentioned so many different things about like aspects to Project Power, like about the animals that they're all based on, and they like mention other trades and stuff, and we've only seen it in the New Orleans perspective, and I think exploring like where we go from there, or even just further explaining the creation of power would be so much more well done. This is a lightning round. So I'm going to pass my answer on to Catherine if you have your pitch at all.
It's like silly because I don't even like Twilight, but I feel like because Twilight's made a resurgence, they could do like a series version of the Twilight movies. And I don't know, like maybe focus. Like I was always like a Jacob fan, so maybe like a Jacob centered Twilight. That would be pretty cool. I don't know, maybe about like Jacob and Renesmee as they're adults. But
yeah, I was a Jasper fan.
Who
Jasper
wasn't?
and Emmett.
Who wasn't though? Like
Yeah, I was like, who's this Edward guy? So I think that'd be cool too to get their perspectives on like, oh, my brother just brought home this like random woman who doesn't know how to act, and so now we.
Or like even Rosalie's like, you know, her origin.
Her whole like like, oh my god.
That would be a beautiful Netflix series.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Sorry about that pen drop. I got excited.
So I don't have an idea for a plot point, but I've been really into Mad Men lately, and I would really like to see more 60s centered shows, just kind of seeing like the daily life, just the minute things that happen.
I agree. Enough shows haven't really tapped into that.
Yeah, or done it well, at least.
For question 2, we are going to head over to Edyn.
All right, so if you could open any business, what would you open?
Oh god.
I think like it's kind of cliched, but like a puppy store. Like I would just love to have like a store full of like cute animals.
I don't think anyone can argue with that. For me, I would really like to open like a jazz bar, really old school, and it can have like maybe like double as a library, possibly, like have books and just be kind of, I don't know. I just have pictures of like smoky jazz singers and all things that I like, and that's what I would love to have.
I think for me, I had a business model project in my sophomore year of high school, and I pitched a barcade. So it was just a bar and an arcade put together, which isn't really like a new or cool concept.
But there was one of those in Gainesville, and it was very popular and very, very fun.
Yeah. And like I do a lot of like fighting games, so like Soul Calibur and Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken. I play all of those, and I think the arcade machine versions of those are so fun too, and having a bunch of those in there and theming around that sort of like fighter games and a barcade would be so cool.
My question would be, what canceled show would you bring back?
Canceled show.
I can go first. Like they just, you know, they ended it and you wish they'd continued, or
Oh no, you've
I
opened a
have
can
one.
of worms.
Yeah, I have one.
Mine is Merlin. If anybody, I really wish they had never canceled that show, and I think that they left it really open-ended so they could bring it back. And I would just love to see that show.
That sounds good. Edyn, you go ahead because I'll go on a spiel.
So, Everything Sucks. I don't know if you guys saw that. It was a really good show on Netflix, and it was centered in a high school, but it wasn't high school drama-y. It was just, it had really good storylines and was well written and really interesting characters, and I think it dealt with like a lot of important issues. And they just canceled it out of nowhere, and it was so much better than the majority of their shows they have on Netflix that I was really disappointed.
I hate it when that happens.
My show I mentioned earlier in the podcast and told you not to let me talk about it for too long. Southland. So it was canceled like 3 times and then picked up again by different like not news stations, but different TV channels. Southland was a cop drama, but it was widely regarded as one of the most realistic cop dramas outside of like The Wire. And like Southland, it followed like detectives, and it followed like street cops, and it followed like different branches of the police department in different ways, and it showed you like how they make their decisions and then like what happens at home. And it was like super gritty, and it was sort of, I don't know, it was shot in a really realistic way. So like if there's something happening, it doesn't show the premeditation before what's happening, it just shows it happening, if that makes sense. Like if there's a guy running down the street, it won't show you, you know, like where he came from or what. It'll show you from the cop's perspective what's happening all the time, rather than like cutting away from who you're actually watching on the show. And it was canceled super abruptly, and it ended in like a huge cliffhanger for 2 of my favorite characters on the show. And so I just want it back real bad, and I will advocate for Southland for a very long time.
I feel like everyone has that one show that they're just very passionate, like, it never should have been taken off of the air, and everyone ruined it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. So now we'll get into upcoming releases. So this is just going to be for early September. We've got a few on the list. And if any of these pop out at you guys, just let me know. I am going to see Tenet, which is released on September 3rd in theaters. That's directed by Christopher Nolan, and it has Robert Pattinson in it and a couple of other famous actors. I think Michael Caine might be in it. But I'm going to see that. It's long awaited. I'm going on release night, so September 2nd for that first showing, but it'll be widely released on September 3rd. Mulan is coming out on Disney Plus on September 4th. I know that's been awaited. We had it set up in the movie theater I used to work at for promotions back in March.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I can't wait for it to come out.
On Amazon Prime Video, we're getting The Boys Season 2. That was that TV show about stereotypical superheroes versus like their counterparts and how that actually works. And, you know, sometimes superheroes aren't all you crack them out to be. And then we had on Netflix on September 10th, we'll be getting The Babysitter Killer Queen, which is the sequel to that weird, cheesy slasher, The Babysitter, with Bella Thorne in it.
Oof.
I remember a lot of kids like that.
Okay. I didn't know people liked it, but...
Yeah.
I don't get it, but I heard a lot of people really enjoyed how weird it was.
It was probably like the 10 to 16 age group that was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, it was like the kids that started out on TikTok instead of...
That's a very specific group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This week on September 4th, NBA 2K21 is coming out. That is going to be a video game about the NBA. There's one every year. You know how it is. And then we are also on September 4th getting the Avengers video game, which is going to play like Spider-Man.
Oh, that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, I've personally had it pre-ordered for quite a long time, so I'm hoping to get that as soon as possible and see how that goes. So we'll see you guys next week with the first political episode of Crow's Cast. Make sure you subscribe and turn on that notification bell to get updates on when our videos come out.